from the core. But once it's done, once you've socialized your system, you never get it back. It's just gone. And then all the thorns start appearing. They promise perfect health care. And in people's mind, this is the delusion. In people's mind, I'm still going to go in this beautiful office where my doctor has this office. I'm going to go in this beautiful hospital, this tremendously beautiful waiting area, and it's all going to be wonderful. And then when the reality hits and suddenly they're told, well, actually, you're going to be in a warehouse in a very bad part of town, in there with gangs. There'll probably be shootings while you're waiting to see the doctor. And this is exactly what Hillary Clinton did. This is what they were designing in the beginning, is that you were going to be assigned an area that you would have to wait to see your doctor. And these assignment areas would put you in very dangerous gang-held areas. Now, I've worked in a lot of charity hospital systems. The big charity hospital in New Orleans, one of the biggest one in the country. And I can guarantee you it could be quite dangerous sitting in a waiting room. And it could be dangerous being in that hospital. Physical danger from being stabbed, shot, attacked.
They're hellish. And this point specifically, they admit that, hey, you're not going to get that surgery. Biden publicly wrote that, hey, if you're above 65, you don't get the eye surgery. Just get a cane, get some thicker glasses. You're not going to get a knee surgery. Here's a cane. I mean, sure, you've got access to health care in Cuba, but you can't actually get any good treatments. But expanding on that, Paul Watson was starting to get scared, and I've asked him to come on the show soon to talk about it, because for a month he couldn't breathe, was coughing, probably had strep throat or something. And what I didn't finish saying was, in my long-windedness, doctor, when he finally got in, they didn't do a swab. They didn't even check. They said, here's some painkillers. Kind of like our troops in the VA, when they have a collapsed disc or something, they just say, here's some Prozac. And now he doesn't know what to do and is still sick. He walked in and some nurse practitioner just said, here's some painkillers, pal. I mean, that's socialism. That's what they do.
Well, in the national health care system, I've traveled to England and visited with the doctors there, and talk to the people who are patients in this national health care system. And it's a lot like the military. When I was in the military, if you were sick, you got what was called a cold pack. Now, a cold pack had some over-counter decongestants and pain relievers and things like that. Everybody got the same pack. There was no individual treatment. There was no consideration, well, maybe you have pneumonia, maybe you have something else wrong. You just got a cold pack in this little brown bag. That's exactly what they do in the National Health Service.
That's what they did. He said they gave him a little pack with Band-Aids and prescription painkillers. He's like, listen, I need you to check and see what I've got. And he's still sick, doctor. I mean, can you imagine living under this?
Well, they won't do it. And if you die in the process, you're just a number. And this is what people don't understand about socialized health care. You are a number. You're like a Social Security number. You're not a real person. If you get involved and lose your Social Security number, I don't care how many forms of identification you have, to the government, you're not real until you find that Social Security number. Well, that's what national health insurance is. You're just a number. Now, if your number disappears or your number is taken off the system because you die, well, that's not a real tragedy to the government and to the people running this system. It's just a group of numbers we have to remove because these people no longer exist. And I remember in England, they said people over age 55 can't get bypass surgery. Well, who needs bypass surgery? People over age 55. So essentially they were saying, we're going to kill off all the people that really need this heart surgery because it's going to save the system a lot of money.
And on average, they're going to take 10% out of everybody's paycheck. This isn't free health care. And now you don't get heart surgery, you don't get knee surgery, and you can't get to a private doctor, even if you have the money, unless they say you can. And Paul is now begging them to let him go see a private doctor. Can you imagine the bureaucrats having the power of life and death over you?
I'll give you another story from Canada. I talked to a physician in Canada, and he told me, he says, my father was in the hospital in Canada with a heart condition. The elevators do not work he was required to walk up the steps, said he was dying in the hallway. There was no one around. And this is a physician. The son was a physician, and this is how they treated him. And he said the elevators commonly don't run in many of the hospitals here. Well, this is exactly what happened in the Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union, on their socialized system, they put the EKG lab on the very top floor of the hospital, and the elevators never worked. So heart patients had to walk up 5, 6, 7 flights of stairs, and a lot of them died on the way up there.
Amazing. Stay there. And again, they sucked the money out of you your whole life through the socialist system, and then they just don't give you the health care and keep it because they're a bunch of eugenicists. Dr. Blaylock's our guest. Stay with us. We're going to try to save some lives and stop socialism. Dr. Russell Blaylock, RussellBlaylockMD.com is our guest. I want to get into saving lives because more and more I have listeners that call me, email me, that come to events I've had, and we're doing question and answer. It's not even on health. And they say, I heard Dr. Russell Blaylock, or your name's probably comes up more than anybody else's. I heard the health ranger, Mike Adams. I heard this other doctor you had on talking about getting off aspartame, getting off MSG, essential fatty acid diets for Alzheimer's patients. My husband, my mother is back. This is magic. Why didn't my doctor tell me? And this term is now just basically surfaced that I see all over the web now. InfoWars saves lives. Well, not InfoWars, our guest. So when I get you on and start really thanking you profusely, it's that you and others really did the homework, and you really are saving a lot of people. It's got to feel good, doctor, but I know it's also got to be frustrating to know that the system knows what you know and doesn't want people to have that information.
Well, that's the sad thing about this, Alex, is they do know. The type of material and information I give out to the public comes from Medline, which is the PubMed, where all the articles are published in the peer-reviewed journals, the top journals in the world. So this is all well-known literature, easily accessible. They know these are the top-flight researchers in the world in all of these different areas. The vast majority of this material, particularly the very life-saving material, is kept from the public. For instance, they love to hawk about 39,000 people dying every year from the flu. Well, nobody actually dies from the flu. They die from complications such as pneumonia. And there's several cases, I wrote it in my last newsletter, of giving high-dose intravenous vitamin C dramatically saved these people. These people were on respirators, and the doctors were trying to convince the parents and the family to let the patient die because they were so far down the road. And they gave them intravenous vitamin C at the family's insistence and completely recovered. Within days, they had remarkable recoveries, removed from the respirator. And this happened numerous times. Well, if you look in the scientific literature, there's good explanations as to why this happens. The safety of this far exceeds the safety of anything that's being done otherwise, far exceeds the safety of vaccines. And in the field of vaccines, we know that if you increase vitamin D3 level in children and pregnant women, and you do a couple of simple things to improve the nutrition, it dramatically improves your resistance to these viruses and bacteria, and would cut the death rate and complication rate of these common infections enormously. And it's just common sense, because if you look at foreign countries, for instance, you go to Africa, the death rate from measles is 300% higher than it is in the United States. Well, why is that? Because of the poor nutrition, poor public health. They have other infections. But in the United States, we don't. And so the death rate from common things like measles is so infinitely low. It's ridiculous to vaccinate every child in the United States with this vaccine or many of these other vaccines. Nurses are being required to get a tetanus vaccine or they can't work in the hospital. And not one soul has asked the simple question, do you think nurses are going to spread tetanus to their patients? Well, tetanus is not a communicable disease. Unless you have a deep cut that's cut off from the oxygen, like a puncture wound, you're not going to get tetanus, and it has to come from the feces of an animal That's where the organism comes from. Yet they're forcing nurses and doctors to get tetanus shots on a regular basis.
Ranch workers, I mean, I've been a ranch worker. Ranch workers are the people that need tetanus shots.
Exactly. And they're making newborn babies. They're having newborn babies get tetanus shot at 6 months of age. Well, what do you think the risk of tetanus in a 6-month-old child in the United States of America is? Well, there's more likely to be hit by a meteor. It's just absolutely absurd when we start looking at the details of this, and that all of this is well demonstrated in the scientific literature, and that the science is on our side, not on their side. They're lying, and they're lying grossly, and they're allowed to lie because the media is controlled and in their pocket. And so the media, even though you may meet some journalists who would agree with everything I'm saying and say this is very important information, when they go to their network and try to get it put on, they'll kill it. Because they...
Dr. Blaylock, stay there. Long segment coming up. I want to get into this move now to try to make vaccines mandatory. I want to look at Alzheimer's and whatever else you think is most important straight ahead. We'll be right back with Russell Blaylock, MD.
We're on the march. The empire's on.
We're about to go back to Dr. Russell Blaylock, who'll be with us 20 minutes into the next hour, coming up in the next segment, and then for the 20 minutes into the third hour ahead of Dr. Jerome Corsi joining us with big breaking news on the providence of Obama. I was skeptical 3-4 years ago that his name was Barry Soetoro and he was an illegal alien and all this. Now it's been proven his name was Barry Soetoro, and they've got some new witnesses. That's coming up. We also have a Little Rock renaming its airport to honor Bill and Hillary Clinton, and I think that's funny because you all know about Mena, Arkansas, what they were flying in there. Now, before I go back to Dr. Blaylock, I just want to mention here that I've done a lot of research, and there are a lot of great gravity-fed filters on the market. But for my family, I did over 2 years of off-and-on research, bought different models, different units, and I found the ProPure Complete, and it is heads above all of the competition. If you want the best gravity-fed filters that work a lot better than the other ones I've seen out there, I mean, it's just the next generation in it. It's amazing. And we have it discounted at the lowest price you're going to find it anywhere. And the company that manufactures them are great patriots. And so we reached out to them, I don't know, 6 months ago, and I said, I want to carry your products. And so if you want to check out the best gravity-fed filter out there, the ProPure Big Complete, and we have a link to some of their other models there as well at Infowars.com. You can link through to the online shopping cart, or you can call our office if you have any questions. 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. And, of course, we're carrying all the great books and videos and films that help wake people up at Infowars.com as well. And your purchase of the T-shirts, the books, all of it supports this news operation. And we are able to continue our operation and grow thanks to what you're doing in the face